Hi everyone, here we are back for chapter 5, motivation, emotion, and driving consumer behavior. So again, I talk about a lot of concepts that we'll go into a little bit of depth on, not a tremendous amount of depth, but just understanding what it is that in terms of motivation and what motivates people to buy things and the role emotions play in them and our motivations. So learning outcomes, understand what initiates human behavior. That's a big topic that we'll talk about. It just briefly. Classify basic consumer motivations, describe consumer emotions, and demonstrate how they help shape value. Apply different approaches to measuring consumer emotions. Understand how different consumers express emotions in different ways. Define and apply the concepts of schema-based affect and emotional cognition. Emotional contagion. That's my mistake. Emotional contagion. This whole idea of schema or story. That's what we're going to talk about. Okay, so what drives human behavior? So motivations, driving forces behind actions that drive consumers to address real needs, which we have the consumer value framework we talked about before. Homeostasis is our physical desire to need really to keep some sort of equilibrium, and the body naturally reacts to maintain constant normal bloodstream. So it's the same idea, homeostasis. Like people like things to stay equal, just like the body does. People emotionally and psychologically, people like things to maintain some sort of equilibrium. Self-improvement, motivations aimed at changing the current state to an ideal level. So if you want to make your life better, you're going to buy yourself clothes that fit, equipment that you can use, that kind of thing. So regulatory focus theory is this idea that consumers orient their behavior either through prevention or promotion focus. So either to prevent something bad happening to them, so they'll get warm boots so their feet won't get cold and wet. Or to promote, or some sort of promotion to make their life better in some way. So, in many other classes, we talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And it's this idea that there are different levels of needs that all of us share. And we seek to satisfy our most basic needs. And before the basic needs can be fulfilled, before the upper level needs can be fulfilled, the lower level needs need to be filled. Then the levels are physiological, safety and security, belongingness and love, esteem, and self-actualization. So here's a graphic that talks about that. So physiological needs, hunger, thirst, warmth, that kind of thing. Safety and security, in terms of feeling safe in your environment, or one example, gated apartment complex, or insurance, for example, financial security through retirement plans. Belongingness and love, this idea of fitting in within a group, whether it be with your friends in college or friends outside of school, that you feel some sort of social connection with people. And then esteem is feeling good about yourself, feeling good about your achievements and what you can do. Congratulations for a job well done, kind of a thing. So the esteem, the example they give here is posting achievements in online gaming. And then self-actualization is reaching your greatest potential and doing what it is that makes you the happiest and that uses all of your skills and abilities. So the utilitarian value is at the very basic level of the physiological needs, and then as we move up, we look at hedonic. We look at the hedonic value. I'm trying to make it look just a little bigger. So that's a little better, I guess. Hedonic value in terms of the experience of the product. So there are different classifications of consumer motivations, utilitarian and hedonic. Here we go. We've talked about this a little bit before. Drive to acquire products that can be used to accomplish something. So it's this idea that they're used to maintain homeostasis, or the like status quo, so to speak. And hedonic is to do something that's more satisfying or gratifying, emotionally gratifying to you. It's more about, as I said, like the experience of it. So utilitarian or hedonic. Okay, and then this whole idea of consumer involvement. How interested are we in the product? How much do we know about the product? How much does the product that we're buying or that we're looking at, is it the same as motivation, that kind of thing? So degree of personal relevance a consumer finds in pursuing value from a category of consumption. What does that mean? So how, if you are a homeowner, you might buy different things as opposed to if you rent something. And the idea is that the more involved we are in the product, the more we see ourselves in the product, the more likely we are to be interested in getting it and also to learn about it and remember it. So there's different types of consumer involvement, the product involvement in the product itself. In terms of like the shopping for it, how much do we, looking for it and that kind of thing. The actual, how engaged are we in the situation? Are we really interested in buying it or not interested in buying it? How much we've invested in it? How long will that involvement last? Do we feel emotionally connected to the product or the service that we're about to purchase or that we're looking into? Like, how much do we feel a part of it, essentially? And it can be seen in a variety of different ways. Okay, so emotion. Oh, emotions. So emotion is this idea of a specific psychological and biological, so thought and feeling, thought and body, reaction to some sort of a human appraisal. So how is it that like our mind and our body respond to things? Like sometimes we talk about a visceral response that we actually can feel it in our body. It's like seeing a certain thing make us feel really happy. Does it make us feel contented? Or does it strike fear in us? That kind of thing. And, of course, marketers want us to have a positive visceral or physical response, feeling of, joy or happiness or contentment. And eventually that's going to have some type of, the marketer hopes to have some type of positive response, and creating that positive emotion is going to really determine marketing success. Okay, so the cognitive appraisal theory, so this idea of how do we think about things, specific types of appraisal thoughts can be linked to specific types of emotions. So we'll talk about a couple different types of cognitive appraisals. Anticipation, which is like what do we expect of it? How do we see ourselves with this product in the future? How involved are we with it? How responsible do we feel about what's going on? How fair do we think that what things are happening are fair? That the exchange is fair for this product, and then outcome is basically consumer satisfaction. Are we satisfied with the purchase that we made? Are we satisfied with what we have? So here we go. Another little picture here. Affect, mood, emotion, and value. So how we feel about something, how we perceive it, so the sensations. I'm sorry, like how we receive these things through the five senses, how we perceive it, and then from that, this whole idea of consumer feelings. So, what are emotions? What are reactions? Positive or negative? Mood. Mood is something that how we feel it for a specific period of time. And then affect. So is it something that we like or dislike? So emotion, mood, and affect. All very important and all can be considered somewhat, there's some relativity to it. And then that in turn dictates our consumer experience, whether it's a utilitarian value or a hedonic value. So basically, what we're seeing and feeling, how we organize it in our head, and then all of the feelings that these create, positive, negative, it puts us in a good mood, bad mood, that kind of thing, like or dislike. All right, so how do we measure emotion? Which we don't need to go into too much detail about this. If you do get into marketing research and consumer research, that kind of thing, these are things that you'll study more as you move on in school. So these are things that marketers like to measure. There is a field of neuromarketing now. How is it that people respond when they see a certain thing? So they like to record, researchers like to record the visceral body reaction or the brain activity, our facial action physiologically, does our heart race more, our temperature move, that kind of thing. And then this idea is that once you assess it, you can get some sort of read as to how people are responding to it. The big drawback to it is that people don't like this kind of thing because they feel it's a little bit too intrusive into their. It's too personally intrusive, basically. You don't necessarily always want people to know what you're thinking. So there are a variety of different ways to do it. Eye tracking technology. So how is it that how do people look at things? And when people are looking at things, do their eyes move back and forth? Are they really transfixed by it? Do they wander off? That kind of thing. It's just one measurement tool. Self-report measurements. This idea of asking consumers what they're thinking, taking a survey, reporting how they felt. Was there any pleasure, arousal, dominance? So again, it's this idea of asking consumers to rate their feelings on a scale, and then positive affect and negative affect scale. Same thing. Is it, do you feel positively about something or negatively about something? And again, as we talked about before, the ultimate goal of the marketer is to make sure that people have a positive response. Okay, and then emotional involvement. How connected do people feel with the product? Some products you're going to feel a lot more connected to than others. And consumers want to know that. And they try in their marketing communications to draw out that emotional involvement. And that they have something that they really feel strongly about. Like they have, that kind of translates to brand loyalty. It can be based on a variety of different things, learning experiences with them, learning experiences with the product, how it's going to make them feel. There's this hedonic value, how it's going to make them feel better about themselves, or provide this great experience. Okay, and then this whole idea of emotional expressiveness. So again, the marketers will try to measure how consumers will show some sort of outward sign and some sort of outward positive experience. And, you could argue that some people who have high emotional expressiveness that really are very, emote a lot, have, a lot of enthusiasm, either positive or negative about something, generally speaking, will be outcomes that are unexpected. This idea of we talked about anticipation earlier, that if you anticipate something and it turns out the way that you had hoped it would, that you probably have very positive feelings about it. And then if you have negative emotions, it's going to decrease value and loyalty. They find that it's generally speaking, negative emotions impact women more than men. If they have a negative experience at a store, they're probably not going to go back there. Men might be like, it was just one time, and maybe I've had a good experience there more times than I haven't, so I'm going to go back. Now, I know that comes off as a little bit sexist, but that is what the research showed, and I'm just reporting that. But it's this idea that consumer marketers want to make sure that you always have a positive experience with the brand, and with the product, because a negative experience can really make you lose a customer. So emotional intelligence is this idea, we talk a lot about it in management, this idea that being able to manage your emotions and the emotions of others, understand and manage your emotions, and also understand and manage the emotions of others. So generally speaking, people with high emotional intelligence, that they really are very present and can understand what's going on and can look at a situation objectively, even when they're in the middle of it and they can control their emotions, usually are more successful in decision making. They can exhibit more self-control. They're able to step back. We talk about this the whole idea of mindfulness. You can step back and look at things. So emotional intelligence is something that marketers really like, managers really like, and in management we talk about how emotional intelligence is really one of the most important characteristics of a manager and of a leader. So you want to make sure that it also works well with, bodes well for marketing as well, so that people can, again, make rational decisions. So here we go. This is just a nice little graphic on emotional intelligence. There's lots of things. Self-control, ability to control your emotions, ability to understand what other people are feeling. And you can, it's the idea, you can, generally speaking, people who have high emotional intelligence can be very upbeat and optimistic. And they generally can use emotions in a positive way to help with problem solving. So humor is also very important. You got to keep your sense of humor close by as often as possible. So it's a value-added experience through hedonic value. So this idea that it can also, humor can reduce stress in a product, if you have fear of a product. You want a product to make, laughter, and laughter adds happiness, adds value to your life, and it's a positive experience. When we say humor, humor in terms of kind of taking things in stride. And marketers often use laughter to evoke some sort of positive response, a funny ad or that kind of thing. But humor is important because, people want to keep it light. So semantic, we talked about semantics either before, a little bit before in previous chapters, or semantic or associative, like associating one thing with associating a brand or a product with something positive. And this idea of associative networks. So brands want to maintain as many positive associations as possible. That's why you'll often see brands and large companies sponsoring events and that kind of thing, so that people feel good about the product and people feel good about the brand. Mood congruent recall. Oh my goodness. So the extent of control over someone's mood, a consumer's mood, it's very difficult to do that, but you can in terms of providing a positive brand experience or a positive shopping experience. And people remember their moods and certain events in their life. And marketers want to put you into a good mood, basically, and they want you to remember a product as a time when you were in a good mood, where you had very positive feelings, not necessarily a dark time in your life. Okay, then schema-based affect or schema-based response. Again, this is stories that we tell people or how we put things in, a category or a narrative, so to speak. And once we have things in a narrative, then this whole idea of we have experienced this feeling, then we have this sort of story or association that we have. We apply meaning to it. So we can apply meaning, say, to, Oscar Mayer, or we can apply meaning to, a positive experience going to Disneyland, that kind of thing. Okay, self-conscious emotions result from some evaluation or reflection of your own behavior, pride, shame, guilt, embarrassment. So marketers are concerned about that they want people to feel good about a product, and they want people to feel they've had a positive experience with it. A piece of clothing that rips would not be a positive experience. That would be a bad self-conscious emotion. So self-reflection. Or something, a sports product that helps you play the game better. And then there's this whole idea of emotional contagion. And it's this idea that, we talk about it in management, that if one person is feeling a certain way in an office, then everybody starts to feel that way. So you want to make sure that there's positive emotional contagions when we're talking about different products, that the people talk it up. So if someone's very enthusiastic about some type of, the air fryer, and then they're going to tell other friends about the air fryer, and that gets everybody, it's like emotional contagion of excitement about the product. Okay, so let's just look at the summary here. Motivation is driving force behind human action. We talked about the hedonic or utilitarian value of a product, and then we also talked about Maslow's need hierarchy. The Maslow's hierarchy of needs is the most popular theory of human motivation. Emotions a specific psychobiological reaction to a human appraisal. So that's the idea. So you feel it, in mind and body. Multiple options and technologies for measuring emotions that people use. Observation, self-reporting, that kind of thing. Consumer emotions are expressed in emotional involvement, expressiveness, and intelligence. The marketer wants to know about that. And then affect, mood, and emotion play a key role in signaling and developing meaning for a product. So you want to make sure that the marketer wants to make sure that they have as much positive in their product, that they're in the brand experience, so that people remember that. Okay, so that wraps up chapter 5, and we'll be back with chapter 6. Thanks, everyone.